with these particular stories. When we come back, I'll give you an idea of the 4 big stories that made headlines this week. Do stay with us. We'll be right back. Hey, welcome back to the program called What the Papers Are Saying. My name is Vivian Kai Loco. In the next hour, I'll be joined by 2 of my colleagues and we'll look at the big stories for the week. 3 stories actually dominated headlines for this week. One to do with the murder of a soldier at Ashiaman, which led to military personnel going there and also making some arrests, in the process brutalizing a number of people. We'll bring you different angles to that story. Another story which is still making headlines has to do with the shortage of vaccines here in Ghana. The Minister for Health has been in Parliament today. Prior to that, he held a press conference to explain why we're seeing the shortages and when that challenge will be solved. And of course, we had the President this week also giving the state of the nation. Let's start with the military's invasion of Ashiaman and give you some angles to that story from various news outlets. I'll start with the Herald. Helicopter and lawlessness after colleagues' murder. That's how the Herald captured that story. Let's go to the New Crusading Guide and let's see how they also captured that particular story. They say military under flags over brutalities at Ashiaman. The Chronicle says slain soldier's lover detained as Abongo boys turn Ashiaman into war zone. Ghanaian Times says murder of soldiers, military troops on Ashiaman beats arrest over 72 residents for questioning. Now let's go to City Newsroom. Let's look at the various angles from that news portal. They say Ashiaman group demands compensation for victims of military brutalities. Still with that, Mahama reacts to military torture in Ashiaman, wants victims compensated. We'll still stay with the City Newsroom because they have 3 different angles to that particular story. One says 150 Ashiaman residents picked up by military released. Also, Defense and Interior Committee will probe military raid at Ashiaman. This is Agalga speaking. And finally, from there, swoop at Ashiaman was sanctioned by Military High Command. Gaff speaking over there. So that's how some of the newspapers, the websites reported those disturbances in Ashiaman. Let's move away from that. Let's go and look at the vaccine shortage and see the latest angles to that story. This story has been running for close to 3 weeks now. What is the latest for this week? The Finder says, no measles death in 20 years. Vaccine arriving soon. Ajiman Menu, the Minister of Health, speaking over there. The Herald says vaccine shortage leads to measles outbreak. Over 500 cases recorded. The New Crusading Guide says outbreak of measles, nationwide shortage, vaccines to be ready in a few weeks, Minister. Ghanaian Times says government to take delivery of measles vaccine soon, Health Minister. Let's go to the Republic Press. They say minority chides government over vaccine shortage. The Ghanaian publisher says measles vaccines coming soon. Health Minister allays fears. The Graphic says government moves to deliver vaccines. Ajiman Menu assures citizenry. Now let's move to City Newsroom. They have 4 angles to this very story. The first says shortage of childhood vaccines worrying. This is Akufo-Addo speaking. He made that statement during the State of the Nation address in Parliament. Now, the health minister fails to give definite dates for arrival of childhood vaccines. This is another angle on that developing story. Another angle from the City Newsroom says, use Independence Day cash to buy vaccines for children. This is ex-President Mahama speaking. And finally, from City Newsroom, it says it's difficult to confirm when vaccines will arrive. The health minister speaking. He now says within the next 3 weeks, we should see the vaccines here in Ghana. We'll move away from the vaccines and take you to another story. Different angles from this story had to do with the president addressing Parliament during his State of the Nation address this week. It will start with City Newsroom. Actually, they have a lot of angles to that story, so I think we'll stay with them on this story. One says Akufo-Addo's national address was completely hopeless. This is Awingobit speaking with the Importers and Exporters Association. Still with the State of the Nation address, Nana Addo's comments on COVID-19 orders report disappointing. This is Agboja speaking. And then, still with City Newsroom, gold for oil policy already bearing fruit, Nana Addo. We didn't misuse COVID funds, Nana Addo again. And finally, from him, from the State of the Nation address, he says, we have not been reckless in borrowing and spending, obviously reacting to a lot of agitations coming around government's borrowing and, of course, the debt we're seeing, which has led to a domestic debt exchange program. And then we'll wrap up with the NDC's directive to the minority this week over them to suspend their campaign to shoot down the EC's new CI. Let's see how that was reported. City Newsroom says NDC directs its MPs to suspend campaigns to shoot down EC's new CI. So these stories made headlines this week. The main ones, one to do with the military in Ashaman following the killing of a soldier there. The shortage of vaccines still making headlines because the vaccines are still not here in Ghana, and children are still not getting the immunization they need to get. And then, of course, the third to do with the president addressing the nation to tell us the state of the nation as we are in. And, of course, finally, the NDC directing the minority to suspend campaign over the CI that the EC has taken to Parliament. Let's look at these stories further and bring you more angles and look at why some of these stories have turned the way they have done. I have two gentlemen with me in the studio. I have Rich Sky. He's with City F. in City FM on The Big Issue and on Eyewitness News on Fridays from 5:30 to 7. Salam, welcome.
Thank you, Vivian.
Right, so we'll start with the Ashaman disturbances, very troubling one we saw. I think the story started developing on Saturday over the weekend, where the news broke that a military officer had been killed in Ashaman by a group of men over there. Now, following that killing, we saw the military go to that place, arrested over 100 people, in the process brutalized women, children, and all sorts. People who lived around that place were unable to go to work, go out because of the brutalities that we're experiencing. But if you look at social media or even the discussions, immediately the story broke of the death of the gentleman. Many people predicted or actually said the military will go there by Monday and beat people and arrest people. It appears that that action from the military is something that we are all used to and we all expect every time one of their own, is murdered. We saw that with Major Mahama. We saw that in Tamale last 2 years or so, and it's not any different, from what we've seen from the weekend to this point. I mean, how did we get here that now it's become a part of us that we expect or we know the military will act this way, brutalize people when a thing like this happens?
Well, I mean, it's but indeed, these are worrying signals, and perhaps, may I say, a worsening relationship between the public and the military, a relationship we've been trying to build since we began practicing democracy or civilian rule. like you rightly said, we've seen in the immediate past or the recent past a number of such unfortunate incidents. We saw the very dastardly manner in which Major Bahama was killed in, is it Denchira Obuasi?
Yeah.
And then the matter is still in court. The court is still adjudicating on the matter. I think the state closed its case some time back.
Yeah.
We also saw a similar thing in Domifase, where 2 military officers were beaten.
Yeah.
That one, it was related to some land matter.
Yeah.
And they were beaten. There was blood all over them in their uniforms, and the whole world was seeing them on camera, on TV. It's not the best, really. We also saw, and we've seen this one, you mentioned the Tamale incident. So it is not proper. When we train people or we put them in uniform, we are supposed to accord them some respect. We are supposed to see them as people who have been trained and people who have devoted their lives to protect us from external aggression. So it's very important to put that on record. So and we must take steps to ensure that we don't see a repetition of this. It is not just the military's responsibility; it's the responsibility of everybody. Having said that, we also have to say that the military are not a law unto themselves. They operate under a constitution. They operate under laws, and the laws are clear about what to do in every circumstance. The fact that one of your own got involved in whatever and was beaten or killed does not give you the right to storm the community, brutalize everybody, arrest as many people as you think are suspects in the matter, take them wherever, and then later say you've released them to the military police, and then they will later be released to the police. You do not have the right to do so. We are not a banana republic. We are a republic of laws. Indeed, what they did was wrong. It must not be condoned in any sense. The activity they undertook is an activity in the domain of the police. The police is in charge of internal security. Indeed, the Police Act, Section 1 of the Police Act, lists a number of things the police is supposed to do to prevent crime, to detect crime, to apprehend offenders in this matter, in this case, and then to maintain public order and safety of persons and property. This is firmly within the mandate of the police.
But was the police not aware when they were moving into
the
area?
And there's been some, you didn't expect the police to go there trying to stop the military. It would have been dangerous, more chaotic, and more disgraceful. It would have become a fight or a conflict between two security state
But their intelligence will not prompt them to know the military are moving,
No, the police, when you look at the police and the military, for some reason, the police feel inferior to the military. I don't know what the cause of that is. And, every now and again, they've been involved in some, conflict. The military is beating the police a few times. I remember at 37 and a few other places. We've seen those, many times. The police will not want to get into that. If there's something to do at all, they may want to resolve it at the higher level, at their boss's level. But what is frustrating for me is the apparent lack of any response from the police on this matter. As it relates to investigations, we don't know. And the military said they were looking for the perpetrators of the crime. Details are sketchy though, but it appeared the guy was unfortunately killed in the night. How are you going to locate the people? You have no idea of who the people are. And now you are going into the communities looking for people in ghettos, etc. We don't even know who killed the person, unless of course they know and they are not telling us. But it doesn't appear that they know, unless of course they were doing so people with information will begin to speak. But that is not how to approach it. And you storm the community with helicopters and a whole lot. This is a war zone. And I think the people of Ashaman deserve better. We do not have to treat people, the way we've seen the defense minister hearing his deputy speaking on the matter. Nitu just said that we must respect people in the uniform, and then he won't say anything again. I thought he would have gone a step further to also say that even though what the people did was wrong, or whoever did so was wrong, he thought that the action of the military was also, a bit harsh, and you leave it at that. We know you are their minister, you are their boss, but the difficulty I think a lot of these people have is that they think speaking the truth to them or calling them out, will not be solidarity. But solidarity doesn't mean when somebody is doing something wrong, you keep encouraging the person or you don't call the person out. That is the difficulty we have. And once we do not correct that, they will do this again tomorrow. And we don't know who will be involved in it. Anybody who was caught in the action would have been apprehended as well. And we don't know who that could be. Could be me, could be you, could be anybody. And the people who are quiet on
videos of women being beaten,
it is wrong. Nobody should be beaten in that manner.
But what exorcism?
Of course, because they are not trained to exercise that level of judgment. The police are. That is why internal security and public order, etc., are left to the police to manage. So for the military to get into that fray, I think it was wrong. The last time I saw something like that was on TV during the Hamas-Israeli war, when they said an Israeli soldier was missing. They thought he was in the Palestinian territory, and so the soldiers were moving from house to house, brutalizing and vandalizing everything, looking for their colleague. In the end, they realized that the guy was dead, but they had caused a lot of havoc to innocent people who had no knowledge about it. We are not in a war zone. We
The PRO has released a statement.
The PRO is not
to state the position.
No, he is not. He is not the commander-in-chief of the Ghana Armed Forces, and the PRO does not have a mandate to protect us as citizens. The people in Ashama are also citizens, so the president cannot hide behind the statement of the military, which itself has problems, to say that the military has spoken. If it was something good, the president would have come to say it himself. If they go to donate cars and bill for the military, is it the PRO that comes to talk for them? The president, as a matter of fact, should have spoken by now on this. And yesterday he addressed the nation. A lot of us were expecting that he would spend some time on this. But from all I heard, this matter was quite missing, or was very missing. And that is the state of the nation. On the day or a day before your address, a major thing like this had happened. And you never, or you couldn't even spell one line on this. I think it was unfortunate. And the people who manage the president about it, he's not done anything. Meanwhile,
he's waiting for investigations to be completed, so he has a full
investigation
to
be completed for what? That people have been beaten, and all the 184 people the police said they arrested killed the guy. It is wrong. People's rights have been violated. It is his duty to protect us, and it is his duty to also uphold the constitution. He has a dual role in this. He's a president for the entire country, and he's also the commander-in-chief of the Ghana Armed Forces. The gentleman killed. Whatever happened, we don't know. He's also a citizen of Ghana, and he's also a member of the armed forces. He owes him a duty as well, the same way he owes us a duty. So to be quiet in this matter, for me, is a no-no.
Richard, does the military have a right to conduct investigations in matters related to their own?
Certainly not. The authority within the ambit of the 1992 Constitution, because they are expressly set up by the Constitution and as implemented by the Ghana Armed Forces Act. And of course, they have regulations that guide what they do and what they do not do. And if you go to Article 210 of the Constitution, their mandate is basically to defend the territorial integrity of the Republic of Ghana against external and internal aggressors. That also includes ensuring that they protect the sovereignty of the Republic of Ghana. Beyond that, the Constitution and other laws may designate them, to do specific things as and when required. And we know how sometimes, where necessary, they use them for purposes of helping with how we police election processes in this country. And some other, of course, we are seeing them deployed to deal with galamsey and some other matters. And the point has to be made that if you look at our laws, as Selom rightly stated, the mandate to prosecute, to arrest, and deal with crime is squarely within the ambit of the Ghana Police Service, which is established by the Constitution and Article 200 of the Constitution. And then, as Selom rightly mentioned, you have the Police Act of 1970, if my memory, which arrest, prevention of crime, and all of these other matters. So we also know that there are other state institutions that have the mandate to deal with other matters, so they can arrest where necessary. So Yoko, for instance, is there, the Special Prosecutor's Office is there, and you have the Attorney General also there, and the other agencies like the GRA.
So the military cannot effect an arrest at
no,
all.
hold on, I'm coming to that.
Your
Yeah, that's right. So if you look at it within that context, there are allied institutions that also effect arrest.
Yeah.
So when it comes to a crime of murder, which was committed outside the barracks, which was clearly outside the domain and jurisdiction of the Ghana Armed Forces, they have absolutely no authority, no mandate, no power, and no jurisdiction to have gone out there to do what they did. What they did there was barbaric, it was irresponsible, it was unconstitutional, and it was unlawful. And every well-meaning Ghanaian with an eye on the need to defend the Constitution of the Republic and all other laws would have to condemn that. Now, let me be quick to add that if you look at the provisions of Article 31 of the Constitution, the President of the Republic, who is the Commander-in-Chief of the Ghana Armed Forces, as designated by the Constitution, has the power to impose, a state of emergency on any part of Ghana or the whole of the country. Yeah. But there must be facts to justify that. And when that declaration is made, the Constitution, still within the remit of Article in position available to Parliament immediately. Okay. And immediately can be construed to mean reasonable time where Parliament is not sitting. On the day that these guys went to, Sherman to do what they did, of course, Parliament was in session. Of course, we do know that the President did not, because if he had, would have seen or we would have heard of the communication to that effect, that they were designating, Sherman as some trouble zone, and therefore they were imposing.
Dispatch the military there.
Exactly. Nothing like that happened. Parliament was not informed, to the best of my knowledge, of any imposition to that effect. And therefore you ask yourself, on whose authority did they deploy the military to go and do what they did in Ashaiman? The respected Brigadier General, who is the spokesperson of the Ghana Forces, comes out and tells us that, well, it was a sanctioned operation.
And it was a swoop.
On the basis of what law? He did not tell us that.
So are you saying that the military, in this case, the gentleman was in uniform at the time, went to a place, was attacked?
Proving that at the time of the attack or whatever, he was in uniform.
You see the clothes, the uniform clothes on him, He was in uniform. I'm trying to understand your point around the Constitution where they feel there's a threat to internal and external whatever. This is a threat to one of their own, which means it's a threat to all of them. I mean, coming from that angle, because we see them taking that action, immediately there's a threat to their own.
No, it will be unreasonable. It is going to be unreasonable for anybody to 3 years, unfortunately murdered, which not murdered, killed, because in this case it's not been proven in a court of law that he's been murdered. What we know is that he's been killed. Murder is a technical, legal term, which we condemn in no uncertain terms. The military would take the law into their own hands and go about beating up people. That matter, to the best of my knowledge, was being investigated by the police, and is still being investigated. In other words, they have invoked, rightly, the police I mean, their authority to look into this matter. So the police have got to be allowed to do their work, which is firmly within their mandate. To go, therefore, wake up in the middle of the night or at dawn, move, resources that have been supplied by the good people of this country, paid for by the taxpayer, given to them to protect the territorial integrity and sovereignty of this country, just to go and beat up people in the name of arresting people.
They were looking for
it's completely reprehensible.
But what sanctions can be taken against the military for us to stop? This appears to be happening every time. This is not new. It's not. It's just the latest.
First of all, if the president was really minded by his mandate to protect all Ghanaians, as provided for in our constitution and related laws, and given his own promise. And let me read to you what he said in his manifesto, which elected him in 2016. That the MPP government will secure peace and security for all Ghanaians. And that the MPP government, Ghanaians will feel safe on the streets and in their homes. Ghanaians will go about their daily business in the secure knowledge that their persons, properties, and lives are safe under an MPP government, unquote. This is what the MPP promised us when they were seeking the mandate of the good people of this country to govern us. Now tell us, whether anything done or not done by the president over the last 48 hours or so demonstrates a commitment to deal with matters like this, to deal with the protection of Ghanaians. It would seem that the president has forgotten that mandate, so that the commander-in-chief of the Ghana forces goes before Parliament to address the House, and the provisions of Article 67 of the Constitution require him to address us on the state of the nation. My reading, ordinary reading of the meaning of the state of the nation would include what happened in Ashaiman. So there was a clear case of presidential neglect, gross one at that, which is, with the greatest respect, reprehensible. Where the president went there and did not speak about this matter. If you look at the president's speech, he celebrated the kinds of investments that have been made in the military. Talked about houses being provided for them, tools that have been given to them, armored cars, and all of these things. These things are given to them justify things like this, although not in as many words. What's the meaning of we should respect men in uniform? Of course, every Ghanaian is to respect the other. None is above the law. If you look at our constitution,
you feel that statement was kind of justified?
If you are a minister responsible for defense,
irresponsible statement.
It is completely irresponsible for you to say
about his job.
You have not dealt with your men for the excesses that went on.
Well,
there.
we don't know that.
You did not. No.
Please.
I mean, you were speaking to the good people of Ghana.
Yes, and Sky, just a minute. Justice must be done, but justice must be seen to be done. So you go and talk to your military guys in secret. That's assuming if he did that, but he has not done that. Assuming he did that, and you come back and tell us that we should respect them. You've not even addressed our problem. You've not even assuaged our problems. You've not done anything. And you are now coming to rub it in our face again that we should respect the men in uniform. But you have gone to tell them whatever in secret. He's not done that. But he had no right to come and tell us that. Every time means loyalty to them. It doesn't mean so. He has to be a man of principle. Defense minister is a very important role. You deal with matters in a just manner. What they have done is wrong. They have violated people's rights. He doesn't see that. It could have been his mother or his brother or his sister caught in that crossfire. And he will come and tell us this. It is irresponsible. He just doesn't know his role as a minister of state, and even for that matter, as a minister overseeing a security ministry.
Okay, guys, I'll allow you to wrap up on this matter. I need to take a quick break, then we'll wrap up on this matter. Sky, I know you've not landed with the way you are looking at me. I'm really worried. When we come back, we'll take final comments from Sky and Selim on this matter. Don't go away, do stay with us.
Is this Nani Flop?
Yes.
What is it with pig feet? No.
Ghana is a country that's full of historical antecedents and rich cultural heritage. What is a rich cultural heritage without soul food? And what is soul food without a touch of ethnicity? And what is ethnicity if it's not from your village? The season of all things Ghanaian is upon us, and we are here to celebrate an aspect of our Ghanaianness with the Back to Your Village Food Bazaar, happening live from the 25th to the 26th of March 2023 at the forecourt of the Accra Metropolitan Assembly. Come, let's treat ourselves to delectable, authentic Ghanaian cuisine from the northern, the middle, and the southern zones of the country that reflect our true cultural diversity. While at it, we'll be jamming to genuine Ghanaian music amidst games, competitions, storytelling, and so much more. Interested vendors of indigenous foods are invited to register. Don't let this be another missed opportunity. Call 0205-973-973 to book a stand and be part of the Back to Your Village Food Bazaar 2023. Anyamime, the country make hot too. So come, let's enjoy some good food, resounding music, heartfelt camaraderie, and remind ourselves why Ghana is still our home at the Back to Your Village Food Bazaar on the 25th and the 26th of March 2023 at the forecourt of the AMA from 8 a.m. each day. The Back to Your Village Food Bazaar is powered by City TV with support from City FM and is sponsored by Voltic Ghana Limited and Malta Guinness.
So this is what the papers are saying. My name is Vivian Kai. Look, I'm here with Stella Madonu as well as Richard Sky. We're looking at some of the big stories for the week. Of course, a Sherman brutalities, the killing of a soldier there is still big news. Started from the weekend, still a big issue now. The defense minister has spoken on it. Parliament's Committee on Defense, some members have spoken on it, and a couple of other well-meaning people as well. Richard and Selam, I'll take your final comments on this matter, the way forward, how we're going to deal with what we're seeing with the military taking action every now and then, and of course the excesses we saw.
There are three things, in my view, that should be done immediately, and they may be considered. I mean, not in any particular order. First of all, if you look at the provisions of Article 216 of the Constitution, Strike has the mandate to deal with matters concerning violation of the rights of any Ghanaian or anybody in there. Their functions or duty include a duty to investigate complaints of violations of fundamental rights and freedoms, injustice, corruption, abuse of power, and unfair treatment of any person by a public officer in the exercise of his official duties, unquote. And if you go to Article 295 of the Constitution, a public officer is basically somebody who is paid, from the public purse or money that is allocated by Parliament and all of that. So, in my view, my respectful view, Shraj may have to look into this matter, and a complaint may have to be filed by a person affected. It could be led by somebody from within the community. That's one way of dealing with the matter. And the Shraj will look into the matter and deal with it. Of course, there will be questions about whether or not Shraj should be investigating the military and all of that. But that's a matter for the courts to determine if it comes down to it. But my respectful view is that they could go into it. Otherwise, Parliament is properly suited to deal with the matter. But I am highly disappointed that the committee is telling us that he will not go into the constituency until next week Thursday,
because it may affect investigation, it may compromise.
I don't look. People have been beaten. Some have received treatment in hospital, as we understand it. Some have swollen faces. Some have broken jaws. Some have all kinds of things. People were made, according to some of the reports, to allegedly eat cow dung and to drink infested water. These are very serious matters, and if you are the representatives of the people, you act with dispatch. How does going to the constituency to speak to some of these people really compromise investigations? Is the whole constituency a community of Ashaiman a crime scene? So that have been damaged, perhaps they may have repaired them. So I think that Parliament is not providing leadership. The civilian administration of this country is not providing the kind of leadership that will send the right signal to the military that you are not laws unto yourselves. You act within the confines of the Constitution and related laws. And where you act in excess of constitutional and legal requirements, we have the authority to deal with you. Parliament says they want to deal with it, but they have to show a greater sense of urgency than they are doing. And I'm said that there should be further information and all of that.
Yeah.
The member of Parliament needed to have read that statement. MPs needed to have spoken with firm voice on how we have to call them out. We have to tell them in the face. And for some reason, our Parliament thus far has performed below expectation. Alternatively, if the president is so minded, he may set up a committee to look into this matter. The circumstances surrounding the deployment.
Like we saw
Unlawful
with the Ejura,
accidents, exactly. Unlawful accidents.
We even forgot to
let the
mention the
facts
Ejura one.
establish exactly what went wrong. Let's find precisely the officers responsible for these excesses, and let's punish them. This whole idea that let's give them compensation, that should be a secondary matter. People have been beaten.
So you believe first find the perpetrators of what,
Yes.
punish them, and then move to the
Exactly.
compensation part, but
Punish
not
them.
the other way.
Exactly. And of course, I mean, we can do them concurrently. But the
when the
idea that people are
military
emphasizing, compensation, we, the people of Ghana, will pay for that.
But when the military are punished, we never see it carry through because everything is in the barracks. So whether it's even carried through or not, we don't know.
I'm saying that we need to do this publicly. When Shraj is supposed to be invited or they are invited to deal with this matter, and for some reason it is established that they have the jurisdiction to deal with it, I argue that they do.
Yeah.
Their sittings would have to be in public. If Parliament is dealing with this matter in a robust way, their sitting would have to be in public. And we need to hear victims, what they went through, just like we saw at the National Reconciliation Commission. And if for some reason the president is so minded to set up a committee, and so far it seems that he's not even interested in this matter, that committee must be a fact-finding committee. It must establish the facts, the findings of which can be used to prosecute the soldiers who misbehave themselves. And finally, Vivian, look, nobody is condoning the dastardly act that resulted in the alleged killing of this soldier. It's unfortunate. It ought not happen. It is reprehensible. It must be condemned. And the people who are responsible for that should be found, put before the law courts, prosecuted, and the full force of the law exacted on them. Okay. And then also, let me use the opportunity to express my condolences to the family of the bereaved family. Look, it is a very tragic way to lose a loved one. To the mother, I mean, I saw photographs, heartbreaking photographs of how he was put to rest today. And it brings me back to the Major Mahama matter. This thing happened under which government? It's been how many years since this dastardly act was committed by some hoodlums in a part of the Western region, the Central region? And for all these years, our criminal justice system has still not brought this matter to a closure. I think it is disappointing. I know that the parties have brought their proceedings to a close, like they have what's the technical word? They have closed their cases, exactly, and related matters will follow. But it is unfortunate that we have not been able to deal with this matter with dispatch. This matter ought not have traveled this far. Okay. It should have been dealt with within the first two years, or even within 6 months, if we were really minded, to send a clear signal
to
that
anybody
it is wrong to exact more justice.
All right.
Well, I mean, just briefly, I still think that it is shocking that we've not heard from the Commander-in-Chief on this matter. We thought that, or we've been made to believe that every morning the president gets security briefing. And so is he telling us that on the day of the event he was not briefed on this? Is he telling us that on the day he went to Parliament to deliver the State of the Nation address, he was not briefed on this? Or because the document had been prepared already, so he had to read it the way it was. He couldn't have used pen to make some marks or make points there to just say. In fact, that should have been one of his opening statements, because he's directly involved in duty, and I'm so embarrassed by that. It is not the first time. You see, what happens is that he doesn't make comments but on internal matters. But when something happens outside, he quickly tweets. He quickly speaks about them. I was going through checking his timeline on Twitter. He has spoken about Nigeria's election, congratulating Tinubu, whose people are even not happy. But Floyd. Yes, Floyd, the guy, the American guy. I remember when what's the name? This Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Quickly.
Yeah.
But we've had, remember when the tidal waves decimated parts of the Volta region? To date, he has not spoken about it. And many other things, he keeps quiet. Even Ayawasu West spoke on, he hardly spoke about it.
The Ejura thing,
he hardly spoke about it. What happens is that if the internal pressure becomes so much, then he comes to do something big, like to set up a committee. That's what happened in the Ayawasu case. So he was not speaking. When the pressure became huge, then he got Bawumia or somebody to announce the setting up of a committee or a commission, which was big, to investigate the matter. Same for Ejura. I'll not be surprised if tomorrow or a few days later a committee is set up to do this, because he's not spoken. So we will now have to spend a lot more money and resources to make a committee sit, and it will be important. The president must always send signals to everybody, but unfortunately, we have not seen a lot of that. Look at the statement the military issued. The arrogance of it. You issue a statement and you say the armed forces also wishes to place on record that the swoop was not targeted at innocent civilians, but was an intelligence-led operation conducted on suspected hideouts of criminals and crime-prone areas in the general area. Ghana Armed Forces, however, acknowledges and regrettably some innocent persons have been caught up in the operation and subsequently suffered some distress due to the location they found themselves at the time. No express apology to the people who have been wrongly arrested or who have been brutalized. No express apology. But you acknowledge that innocent persons were caught up in the crossfire or whatever. You don't have the decency to even apologize to them and tell them something. You just leave it at that, and you conclude by saying that the GAF accordingly wishes to urge the general public to provide useful information, support and to support the security agencies in weeding out criminals, blah 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 blah. The arrogance of this statement. No wonder the date was wrong, because they've amended. I see. They issued it in a rush.
Yeah.
No serious thinking went into this. I think it's an embarrassment to the military that they write a statement without. So people think that when you are hard or when you don't apologize, it means you are hard. So if you're in the military, you don't have to apologize. It's a certain thinking that is so wrong. I don't know if it's cultural or not, that a man must not do something. Military people are men, so you don't have to apologize. You've made an error, and you admit that innocent people might have been caught up in the operation. So apologize and tell them something that will assuage their pain. You don't say anything like that. Now you go ahead to tell us to give you useful information. We shouldn't be shielding criminals. All the 184 persons were involved. It is wrong, and no wonder they behave this way, because their boss himself hasn't seen reason to condemn or even speak about this. So that's what will happen. So I'm not sure with this trend or with the trajectory we are on, we are going to see an end to this. It won't happen.
And Vivian, quickly, look, if you look at the provisions of Article 14 of the Constitution, there's a requirement that when you arrest a person and you have not been able to do anything about that person, or you intend to do something about the person, you need to bring that person within 48 hours before a court of law, right? And if after 48 hours, really, you have not done that, you should release the person. When did they say this thing happened? On the 7th, right?
Yeah.
A day after 6 months.
Yeah.
Today is when? It's been 2 days since they did what they did. The people are still in custody. So where is the respect for the Constitution?
They've released them.
Some of them.
They've released some of them.
Some of them.
70s.
They said, yeah, they said
184.
They said they are still
released
everybody.
Have they brought them before a court of law? Has the judge, said that yes, it is lawful
the
that
president is quiet.
And the president who wrote to power on the basis of his respect for human rights and protecting human rights is still silent on this matter? These are very serious.
The Attorney General, who has responsibility for justice, is quiet.
Even if these people are
terrible.
murderers or they are terrorists,
They have a right.
suspects in that sense, they have a right protected by the Constitution. And people who say that their mandate is to protect the good people of this country and also respect the Constitution have got to do the needful. It is embarrassing.
Right. So this is what the papers are saying. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll look at the shortage of vaccines.
City TV is live on DSTV. Go to channel 363. On GoTV, access City TV on channel 182. On a digital TV, please press the menu button on the remote control and run a new search on your TV. Take note that without an antenna, you cannot access City TV on your television. City TV can be accessed on a free-to-air digital box like the GoTV and StarTimes box. City TV, it's your world.
Welcome back to what the papers are saying. I'm here with Salom Adono as well as Richie Sky. My name is Vivian Kailoko. We move to the vaccine shot. Minister, finally he has spoken. 2 days ago he addressed the press, gave some reasons, global shortage. After being pushed to tell us exactly when the vaccines are coming, he's saying in 3 weeks. Is explanations good enough, or we're still at square one?
Well, the minister, Kweku Ajimamenu, in the first place shouldn't have been, or shouldn't be minister right now. He's had too many problems in the recent past. I don't know what it is with him and vaccines. You remember the Sputnik V?
Yeah.
I don't know what it is with him and vaccines, that whenever it comes to matters of vaccine, amongst other things, he falters. You know, the question is, when did they realize that we had run out of vaccines? Is it because, or was it when the media started, you know, throwing
Making
some
noise
light,
about it.
you know, on the matter 3 weeks ago? And they say they got to know about it, or it happened the last quarter of last year, which is even not accurate, because we started having reports that it started in somewhere February or middle of the year. So even granted that it started in the last quarter of last year, important things like vaccines, very, very, very important, you know, things like vaccine, from October till now in March, you are now telling us that it will come in 3 weeks' time. When did you notice the problem? When did you start putting in place measures to procure them? We need to investigate that. When was the first procurement made, or when did they start making this? Because if it was treated like an emergency really that it is, we don't have to wait 6 months. For basic vaccines like BCG, measles, rubella, and then poliomyelitis vaccine. These are key. BCG, very important, tuberculosis and things, very, very important. Provides the baby with covering, some covering. Rubella, measles, poliomyelitis, you know, and we don't appear to even understand the implication of this on the future of the future generation.
Yeah.
Yet they keep giving us conflicting responses. Somebody says it is the exchange rate. Somebody says it is COVID and Russia, Ukraine. Somebody says it is this. Just we don't even know what the problem is. There's something we say that knowing the problem is half solving it. We don't even know what the problem is. We are now looking for what the problem is before we sit down to solve it. And it is interesting that the minister who says that he's placed an order doesn't know when the vaccines will come. He said 3 weeks' time. The director of If you've placed an order, you should know when it is arriving. Because they will tell you, if you place the order, when you're even buying things on the internet, or you're placing search orders, they know when it will finish, they know when or how long the shipping will take. You know, barring any difficulty or any hitches, you should know when it will arrive. So what stops you from telling us that you place the order on this day? You know, they say it will take this number of days to arrive, this is the date you have officially, but things can happen, so let's give ourselves some time. That would have comforted us a bit. You don't come and tell us stories and expect us to believe you. You see, these appointees of government must know that their actions, are how they conduct themselves, is important to repose confidence in the governance structure of our country. It is wrong the way they are handling this matter. It's like they don't even care, because maybe they have their own sources of doing things, their own ways of doing things. If they are sick, they know how to take care of themselves. So for the rest of us, we can just go and take care of ourselves. That is not responsible. Okay. That is not proper. As member of parliament, and sit somewhere and take care of himself and his children and grandchildren.
Well, Sky, a minute to that, because we need to look at state of the nation.
Well, I mean, I can only say that I'm highly disappointed in how this thing is shaping up. And look, I mean, if I I don't even know how to put it. Look, what is the reason why we don't have the vaccines?
Irresponsibility.
As you know, my good friend Seloma said, it is completely irresponsible for you to come and finish or to finish and then now start giving us reasons why you don't have it and giving us timelines as to when you are going to make it available. It is bad management. And you see, look, the president enjoys a lot of international goodwill. And if he is really minded to solve this problem, he should be on the line, on what do you call it, on the phone lines with our international partners who are interested in the health of our children. And if they have some to spare, just like we were begging them to give us COVID vaccines, it is possible to speak to partners in the UK, the US, Canada, all these places. Of course, I mean, they should have, I mean, I've not investigated it, but I think it is rudimentary to expect that they have some of these things in stock. So it is possible to lean on them, beg them that, oh, please, we have this situation.
When will we stop begging?
Look,
we are
already there.
Why should you run out?
You see, we are already there.
Too much.
What I'm saying is,
it's gonna be your age.
That thing we are solving. If we go to the IMF, are we not begging? We are asking China to forgive us our debt. We are asking the European Union and the Paris Club.
The Paris Club, yeah.
So if you look at it, look, if we cannot immediately buy it, I believe that there are friendly countries out there who may be willing to support us with the doses we need to keep the situation at bay, because kids are getting sick and we don't want that. And you know, the possibility of later problems emerging in the life of these kids is real. Mental retardation, some of the complications they will have along the way. I think that this is a matter that requires extreme urgency.
Okay.
And the leadership of this country should show that.
Okay. We'll wrap up with the state of the nation. Did the president really tell us the state of the nation?
Well, I want to say that...
We all have 2 minutes each.
Well, I mean, yes, if you look at the remit of Article 67, the president went to Parliament, satisfied that constitutional requirement, told us some of the things that have been happening in the country. The economy is in serious crisis. It's been decimated by, you know, lack of judgment and the exercise of recklessness. He says that he's not been reckless, but clearly, I mean, if you look at what's happened in this country over the last, you know, how many years, I think successive governments, including this one, they have been extremely reckless in how this government, you know, IMF and all the problem. So yeah, he's done his constitutional bit. But were there things he could have talked about? Yes, he spoke about retooling the military. He spoke about issues having to do with protecting our territorial integrity and sovereignty, and all of these in rural sector, all of these things. He mentioned them. But the fact is that there were things that he did not deal with, and I am highly disappointed.
So what were you looking, earlier you said the military that Sherman did. What other things were you hoping to have heard from that speech that he didn't touch on?
Okay, so
Which led to your disappointment.
Okay, so for instance, I mean, the Yoko, not the Yoko, what's the name? Special Prosecutor's Office. He basically made a cursory reference to providing resources to anti-corruption institutions to fight, corruption. For the first time, or in a long time, or perhaps it is often becoming the case, it would seem that this government is no longer as robust as it's always been on the matter of corruption. They no longer are confronting corruption and dealing with it. You came to office and set up the Office of the Special Prosecutor. This office is resources to them. And we don't know if the resources have been released. So you, the president who set it up, promising to make it work, you have got to make serious, profound statements on what they are doing.
Okay.
But nothing.
Okay. Let Selim speak. We have a minute.
Well, I mean, he satisfied the constitutional imperative largely, but it also means that it gives us a holistic picture. It's a snap. I mean, you give us a holistic picture of what the situation is. You don't tell us what interests you alone and leave the other things. He talked about the COVID funds being properly or having been spent properly, that it was not dishonorably used. But that's a big problem. We've all seen the Auditor General's report. Unless he has issues with Auditor General's report. We've also heard about how the COVID-19 funds were distributed to political apparatchiks, constituency executives, and then parliamentary candidates.
Chief even got some.
The lady in Sagnarugu, the MPP candidate in Sagnarugu, is on record to have said that she got 50,000 as the second vice chair of the party in the region, and another 50,000 as a parliamentary candidate for Sagnarugu. The constituency executives were giving 10,000 each. She gave 100,000 to the constituency to be used for the campaign. Was that the essence of the COVID funds? So you don't come to tell us that the COVID funds were used properly. That is not true. And there were many other things the COVID funds were used for, which were not supposed to have been. The COVID funds, it was like a bonanza. It has come. Everybody must chop some. So it was just shared without recourse to the real reason why the money was there. Look at how we depleted our heritage fund. We depleted a lot of our resources just for COVID. Few months on, we turn around to blame COVID for all our problems. COVID, to some extent, should have been a blessing in disguise because there was a lot of money that came into the system because of COVID. We misapplied the money, and then we are saying that the money was used well. I didn't expect the president to say that. What he said meant that he was not even on top of issues. If it's so embarrassing, find a way around it and let us know that you will deal with it. Or you have seen the Auditor General's report, you have instructed your people to look at it and then recommend one or two things to you. That would have been better. That would have told us or shown us that the president is serious about dealing with the problems. And you don't do all of that, come back to tell us that now we should give up some of our investments. Money you have borrowed from us by way of bonds, give up some of them for you to do whatever. You've misapplied the money that you had. Why are you coming to burden us with so it's no, that's not patriotism. It has nothing to do with it. Has nothing to do with patriotism.
To make people say anything. It's just to end it there.
You see, it's important that
the COVID thing, Ghana was not any worse affected by COVID. Ghana wasn't any worse affected by COVID.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Selim Adonu here with us, City FM and City TV. Richard Sky here with us, City FM, City TV. The show is over. My name is Vivian Kai Loko. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you again next week. Goodbye.